Welcome to MCTV Extra Point. I'm your host, CJ Ritchie. I'm happy to say we've been picked up and be here for a long time. Our guests tonight are senior analyst Nick Lucarelli and senior analyst Cameron Watkins. Nice to have you guys here.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for having me.
Let's jump right into our topics tonight and talk about the NCAA Men's Basketball Championship game, which underwent 2 days ago. UConn Huskies had 60 points and Kentucky Wildcats had 54. UConn has now won 4 championships in the last 16 years under Jim Calhoun and now Kevin Ollie. What did you guys think of the game last night, Nick?
Great game, great display of college basketball. I thought that UConn, they pulled it out because they played better as a team, but Kentucky, valiant effort, and they're gonna be here to stay too, and they're gonna be in the mix for the next couple of years. Kevin Ollie did a great job coaching UConn, and I'm just happy they won.
What do you think, Cam?
Well, Kevin Ollie, he's done a really great job this season keeping that UConn Husky team together. Even when they've had their roller coaster season, he's kept those guys together, and they ended up playing some really great basketball come tournament time.
Very well. Shabazz Napier, star guard for UConn, had 22 points. Michael Boatwright, the other star guard, had 14 points. UConn really showed their sign of expertise when they were 10 for 10 on the free throw line. Kentucky went 13 for 24, with stars like Julius Randle missing more than half of his free throws. What do you guys, Cam, what do you think about the free throws and how Calipari has not really stressed it over the years?
Free throws is a really big part of the game. I believe it happened back in 2008 with Calipari was coaching the Memphis Tigers. They missed about 7 or 8 free throws down the stretch.
12 for 19.
They were 12 for 19 in that game. They ended up losing that game
Not gonna win like that.
against the Kansas Jayhawks. So free throws play a really huge part.
You make all those free throws, you're gonna win the game, and they just didn't. And they had 13 turnovers for Kentucky. And they had 33 rebounds, 34 for UConn. It was mixed up. It was very nice. Randall only has 10 points, only 6 rebounds, both under his averages for the year. James Young has 20 points and 7 rebounds, comes out of nowhere, becoming the star for that game. Really took control, but it wasn't enough. Kevin Ollie, former Sixer, was handpicked by Jim Calhoun to take this program to the next level and continue his legacy. He just did exactly what he had to do.
I think hit the nail right on the head. The sound basketball is what got it done. 10 for 10, man. When you play like that and you hit on those type of things, that's what builds championships teams, and that's why they're going to be here to stay in the mix for the next couple of years, just like Kentucky is. But when it came down to this game, the turnovers, it's just you can't win that way.
No, Kevin Ollie, this is his dream job. He's going to be here to stay for a long time to come. This isn't going to be their first national championship. I'll give him a good couple more, 3-4 national championships, in my opinion.
Sure.
John Calipari, the Kentucky Wildcats coach, has now gotten offers he got contacted by the New York Knickerbockers to come coach that team. Now, I don't know if it's the right idea for them, but do you think they should jump right in? He should jump right into NBA coaching? Do you think Kentucky will suffer? What's your guys' views? What do you think, Nick?
Kentucky would be losing a great coach, but the Knicks, not to get too much in the NBA right now, we're sticking on NCAA, but I think they'd benefit as well, but you never know how someone's going to translate. It's really a crapshoot when it comes into it. The game is different. It's a lot more individual based, a lot less. It's going to resonate a lot less with the NBA players, like the system resonated with the NCAA players. So it's tough. You don't know how much it's going to resonate, but I think the Knicks would benefit, and Kentucky would be losing a great coach.
The Knicks, they would definitely benefit. Calipari, he's a really damn great coach, but Kentucky, they would be losing a lot in the process. He's a really great recruiter as well. He was at Memphis 10 years before that, before he came to Kentucky. So they would be losing a lot when they lose Calipari. He's a really great recruiter. You see, they were able to get 5 freshmen this year, so they would be losing a lot.
They have 5 freshmen. That's impressive.
Definitely agreed. Some great points from our analysts. UConn women also beat the Fighting Women Irish last night to take the NCAA men's and women's championship. It's only happened 3 times before. Missouri back in 1982. And UConn back in 2004 for the second time. It's an amazing feat. Now let's move on to the MLB injury report and headline news. Left-handed pitcher from the Tampa Bay Rays, Matt Moore, has now affected his UCL and is going to have to get Tommy John surgery after an MRI. For the Rays, guys, do you think that the pitching that they have with Matt Moore, David Price, is this going to affect their outcome to win the AL East?
Oh, yeah. The bullpen's going to be probably the biggest factor when it comes to winning the division, trying to win the World Series. I think it's gonna hurt him, and I'm not sure exactly how long it's gonna be out, but yeah, you leave. It's just David Price then. I'm not even sure who else can really get out the real good batters in the AL. It's gonna be tough.
Well, I don't know. I don't think the Rays, they can just depend on David Price by himself. I know David Price, he's a phenomenal pitcher, but you can't just depend on David Price all by himself.
It was the duo that really, you know, that was scary.
A slew of MLB pitchers also have been injured this week, going from James Paxton, starting pitcher for Seattle Mariners, Bobby Parnell, closing pitcher for the Mets, and Clayton Kershaw, the ace from the LA Dodgers. Which three of those pitchers is the worst hurt to the team?
I think Parnell with the Mets is by far the worst hurt, just because, you know, when you got a guy like Harvey out already, you need Parnell was the veteran. He was the guy that was going to bring it home for them as the closer, and without him, it just comes back to, can they win those games in the ninth? When it comes down to it, can they win those games in the hard NL? I don't see it happening. I think he's the biggest loss.
I want to say the Dodgers. You know, Dodgers, honestly, I believe they're going to win the NL West because Dodgers, they're a really great team, but you think that pitching is going to be able to hold up without Clayton Kershaw?
All right, other injuries around the league. Adrian Beltre, third base for Texas Rangers, day-to-day with a sore quad. Josh Hamilton, day-to-day with a messed up thumb. The x-rays were negative. He'll be fine. Over on the headlines of yesterday, Ryan Braun goes 3 for 3 with 3 home runs and 7 RBIs against the 10-4 rout of the Phillies. Just an amazing feat. And Baltimore scores 14 on the Yanks. Delman Young, 3 RBIs. Matt Wieters, 3 RBIs. And Adam Jones, 2 RBIs and a home run. They all had home runs in that game. What was the bigger offensive feat? 14 runs and or 3 home runs in a game by one player?
Well, the biggest feat, you know, I think it's hard to say, but I think the more impressive thing is the 14 runs by a team because it shows a team coming together, everybody on at the same time. Players can get hot, but when a team's hot like that, it just shows. I think they're going to be hot for the next couple of weeks. That's the way it seems to go in baseball. It seems like they're going to be a hot offensive team for the next couple of weeks, and hopefully they can sustain it for their sake. I think it's much more impressive when it's a cohesive effort playing so well.
I agree. Braun or Baltimore, Cam? What do you think?
14 runs is really impressive because it's a team effort, but I'm going to have to go with Ryan Braun because, you know, he had a 65-game suspension last year, and he's just coming back. So it's really impressive to see that he was able to pick up where he left off before he had that suspension and hit 3 home runs like that.
I'm happy you mentioned that, Cam. The 64-game suspension for steroid PED use. Well, he's been booed in Boston, and he's been booed in Philadelphia. What do you think about the MLB PDF problem in sports?
Well, with him being PD. With him being booed, I think a lot of it has to do with Boston and Philly, two probably the most hardcore fan bases. They boo him anyway because he's such a great player. They don't want him to get a hit. But
agreed.
With the PED use, it's a problem in football. It's a bigger problem in baseball. I'm not sure what these guys are doing. I'm not sure why they feel that that's the way the road they have to go down. But it's really out of control. They need to find some sort of motivation or incentive to not use it. It's not working now. The suspensions isn't working.
The fans do come back to the stadium. They don't care.
Yeah, there needs to be something that deters them, whether it's a lifelong ban. I'm not sure what it is, but they got to find a way to bring the respect back to baseball. What a respectful game it used to be back in the day, and now there's all these things coming out. It's really a shame.
I don't think gambling is worse than steroid use. But Cam, anything to add on the steroids?
I just don't understand why do these great athletes, they have to abuse the game by using PEDs. Like, do you have to cheat to get to the top? Is it that daring to get to the top? Is it that important to get to the top?
No, I completely agree. UCL, for anybody that doesn't know, is the ulnar collateral ligament, and that is in your elbow. That is what happened to Matt Moore, and that will affect with Tommy John surgery. And Omar Infante was hit in the face, the second baseman for the Royals, and he is day-to-day as well. Well, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back with our NFL preview for 2014. Stay with us.
Adopting a new pet is a rewarding experience. And Shelter Pets make super pets. Your new best friend will steal your heart, bring you happiness, and enrich your life for years to come. You can make a difference in the life of an animal. Adopt and bring home a shelter pet today. To find out more, visit theshelterpetproject.org.
Welcome back to MCTV Extra Point. I'm your host, as you know, CJ Ritchie. I am here with, as you know, Nick Lucarelli and Cameron Watkins, our analyst. Today, now let's get into the NFL preview, but right quick, let's talk about Chris Johnson, rocks the NFL world when he gets released by the Tennessee Titans, former 2,000-yard-a-year rusher. So what do you guys think, man? Is that a bad move for Tennessee? Or why would you release an all-star caliber 2,000-yard rusher? as Chris Johnson?
Well, because the 2,000 yards he accrued was in 2009. Now, you look at his production, it might be a shock. He's had 1,000 yards every year he's been in the league. But you can't look at things strictly in numbers. And the guy is not an every down back. He's not a great blocker. He's not a down the field runner.
But you wouldn't want him on a team like Tennessee, who doesn't get to the playoffs every year, and who doesn't have a playoff push even if they get there.
Well, you know, I'm not saying they should have cut him. What I'm saying is that it doesn't make. When you look at the kind of player he is in terms of numbers, you would think to themselves, he's their best player. Why are you getting rid of him? But they're trying to play him for their future. And losing cap space like him, and losing a guy that quite frankly doesn't want to be there anymore. He hasn't caused any problems, which is to his credit.
More like a Maurice Jones.
Exactly. You know,
Jaguars.
it's time for both teams to move on. Each get a new change of scenery. I think it's the best thing for him.
I think it was a good way to get rid. It was a good way for Chris Johnson to leave. But Cam, what do you think about the whole situation?
Well, Chris Johnson, he's a really dynamic player. Just like Nick said, he ran for those 2,000 yards back in 2009. I remember back when he was at East Carolina, he was a really productive player back there as well. Chris Johnson, he's going to find a new home in the NFL. He's going to be just as productive as he was in Tennessee, as he's going to be for the new team. He doesn't cause any problems to the locker room, just as you stated. He's a really productive player. He gets the job done. He's not an every down back, but you still have to look at it though. He gets the job done. He does what he's supposed to do.
So where do you guys think Chris Johnson will end up after this is all said and done? What team is he starting off with?
Well, there's been reports that the main two suitors are the Atlanta Falcons and the New York Football Jets. But, you know, I think the best fit for him would be go to the New York Jets because he's going to be showcased in a much easier light. You know, I personally, as a Jets fan, wouldn't mind having a guy with that kind of dynamic playmaking ability, but at the right price. Are you going to pay this guy, Adrian Peterson, money? No way. It doesn't matter that he has 1,000 yards every year because those 1,000 yards are a bit skewed. If you look at him, if you look at his yards per carry and his games individually, he'll pop off a 90-yard run a game, but he'll also have 21-yard carries because the guy is a broken field runner looking for the big play. That's not the kind of guy you want to have on your team for that kind of cap space. That's why the Titans were smart to get rid of him. If the Jets bring him in or the Falcons bring him in at a nice, comfortable salary for a running back of his caliber and his type of game, I think it's a good move. But anyone who pays big money for him is, I think, making a mistake.
Completely agree. Cam?
You could throw New York Jets. I could even throw the New York Giants in there as well. They're looking for a running back as well. Giants would be a really great fit for Chris Johnson as well as the Atlanta Falcons. Anywhere he goes, like I said, he's really going to be productive.
Do you pay big money for him?
Of course I would pay big money for Chris Johnson.
Really?
Yeah, Shady's not even getting paid Chris Johnson money,
Yeah.
so we'll see what happens. Now let's get into the NFL preview. Let me see your top teams and division winners of next year. Nick, East, West. Let me get the NFC first.
All right, starting off with the NFC North, you got the Green Bay Packers. They just got, you know, I think they've improved with Julius Peppers. I think they're going to have a nice, solid draft. I think that they are going to take the NFC North, just playing their offense. I think Aaron Rodgers is, no matter how high you rate him, he's still underrated, man. The guy is just unbelievable. I think when you go to the NFC West, the division winner is going to be the Seattle Seahawks. And there's another surprise team we'll talk about in a little bit in that division, but the division winner, still the Seahawks. They're just the most sound football team. They play the best defense, and they play my type of offense. Ground game, control the ball, don't turn it over. That's my type of offense. The NFC East, it's got to be the Eagles. The only way you can play this game, this preview-type game, is on paper because we don't know what's going to happen. On paper, the Eagles are far and away the best team in the NFC East. The NFC South, I go the Panthers again, but I think it's going to be a tight race between them and the Saints. I don't see either the Saints or the Panthers doing much, anyone from the NFC South doing much, but I think the Panthers win the division.
Cam?
All right, I'm going to start with the NFC East. NFC East, I'm going to go with the Philadelphia Eagles. I know they recently lost to Deshaun Jackson, but that doesn't make the Washington Redskins the favorite. The Eagles are still the favorite, in my opinion. NFC West, this is a really tight division. That whole division is really competitive, but I'm really going to say the San Francisco 49ers, they have something to prove because the Seattle Seahawks, they swept them last season, so they have something to prove. NFC North, Green Bay Packers, Aaron Rodgers, he's going to have a really great season. He's going to come back. He's going to prove to those Chicago Bears that that's his division. They're going to get the job done this year. NFC South, Atlanta Falcons, they're going to rebound this from last season. They're going to have a really great draft. I believe they're going to improve that defense as well. You want to do wild card?
Well, let me give my picks first. You got the me. I agree with the Eagles in the East. My West pick, he kind of spoiled me with the surprise teams. We're going to wait about that. I have a big, shocking surprise for the West. In my mind, the North, Green Bay, solid team. Defense helped with Julius Peppers, great. And the South Saints, I think Drew Brees still has got a couple good years with him. Also, the Eagles with that Darren Sproles sign. I think Deshaun's play receptions will be spaced out enough with the team with the 2 split back, 2 tight end, 2 wide receiver set that they're going to probably go into. Now, yeah, let me get your NFC wild cards. Personally, I go Seattle, San Francisco, which means my West winner is not neither of them. What do you guys think?
Well, my wild card might be teasing both of our surprise team, which is the St. Louis Rams.
Exactly,
Is my top
my
wild
team.
card for the NFC, and my second wild card would be the San Francisco 49ers.
My wild card for the NFC. My wild cards for the NFC is my first team is a team that really should have been in the playoffs last year, the Arizona Cardinals. I really feel like they should have been in the playoffs last season. They really played great football, as well as the New Orleans Saints. They're a really great team. Drew Brees, he has a lot left in him with that New Orleans Saints football team.
Yes, he does. Yes, he does. Now, the reason I picked the Rams, they have 5 draft picks in the first 3 rounds of the NFL draft. With a young team, Tavon Austin, Bradford's coming back this year. The defense and the offensive line are just tremendous. Now, in the AFC, my picks are the East, the Pats, the West, the defending AFC champion Broncos, the North, my spoiler team, the Cleveland Browns in a weak division, and the South, the Colts. Who you guys for the AFC?
Well, for the AFC East, I go with the New England Patriots, unfortunately.
Yeah, every year.
They're the best, man. They're always in contention for the Super Bowl. They're going to win the division. It comes down to it's hard to beat them in Foxborough. It's almost impossible to beat them in Foxborough. With the AFC South, let's go with. The AFC South, you got to go with the Colts. Talk about a weak division, man. I think the Titans have a chance to dethrone them, hopefully, because I'm not a big fan of the Colts. But, the Titans got a chance, but I think AFC South, the Colts take. Now, with the AFC North, Pittsburgh Steelers far and away, I believe. I believe the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to have a huge bounce-back year. 14-2 is my guess. Now, which one did I forget now? AFC...
That was the AFC North.
Oh, yeah, AFC
West?
AFC West, I
West.
forgot, which I think is the Kansas City Chiefs. Takes the division.
All right, Cam, for you?
AFC East. I have
Can
to go.
do we argue about
Yeah,
it?
dude, it's no arguing about it. They're really having a great offseason. New England Patriots, they're having a really great offseason.
Bringing a lot of
They're
players.
signing players left and right.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised. They're looking at Chris Johnson right now, honestly. AFC West.
That's a good point, yeah.
AFC West, Denver Broncos, they're having a good offseason as well. They recently just brought in DeMarcus Ware. AFC North, I'm going to go with the Baltimore Ravens. I believe they're going to rebound and have a really great season. AFC South, I'm going to go with Houston Texans.
Really?
That's a bold pick.
I think they're going to do something with that number
Why?
one pick.
They're taking a quarterback with the number 1 pick? Is that
I
what
don't. Honestly, I want them to trade down with that number 1 pick.
Really? So
But it's either that or
they're winning the division with Case Keenum?
it's either that or they're going to take Jadeveon Clowney.
All right.
I say they're going with Johnny Manziel, but that's just speculation from a little analyst. Wild card teams. My first wild card, Cincinnati Bengals, after a rough, disappointing playoff run last year, and the Kansas City Chiefs, who are just a young team getting hot. What do you guys got for your wild card?
My first wild card would be the Denver Broncos. I personally think they're going to have a much worse year when it comes to the win column, but they're still...
It's hard to do what they did last year.
For some
Very
reason,
hard.
they've got another easy schedule, which I'm not sure why. So I can't see why they wouldn't make the playoffs again. And my second wild card, no bias here, pure objectivity, the New York Football Jets. I think they've got a solid defense, obviously people like to point out, but I think their offense has improved. I see Michael Vick starting, winning the job, not being appointed the starter, and I think that the Jets win enough games to make the playoffs. They're not going to do anything, but I think they get a playoff spot.
All right, my wild card picks. I'm gonna go with the Kansas City Chiefs. Andy Reid, he's doing a really great job with that Kansas City Chiefs football team, and I'm gonna go with the Indianapolis Colts. Andrew Luck, he's gonna keep playing great football. So
Yeah, he's a
you
great
can't keep the
player.
Colts out the playoffs.
He's all right. Let's not.
He's a great player, great young quarterback. Now, the biggest surprise for next year, 2 teams, the NFC and AFC. Mine are division winners in my mind. AFC Cleveland Browns with pickups like Carlos Dansby and Dante Whitner. Also, Ben Tate is going to be my most improved player, going from Texas, where he showed that he can play a starting role. Aaron Foster gets hurt. Ben Tate didn't lose a step, even though that team was very bad. The Rams are my most improved team, my biggest surprise for the NFC, as their team is just going to, as I said before, is going to get a lot of draft picks, and they're a young, great team. What's your biggest surprises, guys?
So my most improved player, then my biggest surprise?
Yeah, any order you want.
Most improved player, I'm going to go with Michael Floyd, the receiver for
From the Chargers.
no. For
Malcolm, that's Malcolm.
No, I'm sorry. No, I'm not sorry. He's on the Cardinals. That is his
Cardinals,
name.
you're right.
And he is the second receiver to Larry Fitzgerald. I think he's going to have a big year. And I think he started to progress more last year, battled some injuries. And I loved him coming out of Notre Dame 2 years ago, and I think he's going to have a huge year. My biggest surprise team, I agree with you, St. Louis Rams. There is no better coach in this league than Jeff Fisher. They've got a solid defense, solid offense. To me, their biggest question mark is at quarterback along with running back. And I think that, they got to get a backup in there.
They can steal someone from this draft easily.
Yeah, you drive
Not just the Cardinals as well.
Yeah.
With Carson Palmer, he's pretty old. Who do you really keep him and try to push, or do you go over the draft? Do you try to trade up and steal someone?
I disagree with Cam with the Cardinals because of
The quarterback.
Carson Palmer. Because I just think that, quite frankly, people thought he had a bit of a resurgence last year. The games I watched, when it came down to it, even though he had some nice numbers in some games, he couldn't win any games. So I think that the Rams is the surprise team, and Michael Ford is my most improved player.
All right, biggest surprise and most improved.
I'm going to go with the biggest surprise team. I'm going to agree with both of y'all. I'm going to say the St. Louis Rams because they have to step up and play with that division. They have to step up and play with that division.
I agree. That division in a whole, with Seattle and San Fran, they really bring the best out of the teams who play them. And
They were this close to being the Seahawks last year.
They make them play at such a higher caliber, and it's really amazing. Who's your improved player?
I know he didn't play last season, but you have to consider him for a comeback player as well because he's going to have to step up and take the place of Deshaun Jackson, Jeremy Maclin.
Yeah, that'll be somebody to watch out. MVP, my MVP. I can't even pick. I got Peyton Manning, Brady, Luck, or Foles. It's going to be a quarterback. And it's going to be whoever has the best year. That's we'll talk about that later. Who's your MVP?
My MVP is Big Ben Roethlisberger with the Pittsburgh Steelers. The guy does not
He says Ben Roethlisberger. I say Nick Foles. He says Ben Roethlisberger.
He does not put out gaudy numbers, but I think this year he will. And all he does is win. I think the Steelers win the Super Bowl this year as well. The guy is just a winner. He was the best player in the NFL last year, and I don't see how he can't win the MVP. He's my MVP.
Well, I'm gonna bet him on that because he's gonna lose a lot of money. Cam, what do you think about MVP?
He should have been considered for MVP last year because of the offense he played with Tom Brady.
Yeah, Tom Brady every year, just through and through,
no,
awesome.
No arguing with that.
Well, we're going to wrap up the NFL preview, guys. We'll be right back after commercial break with the NHL wildcard push. Stay tuned.
Every day across America, excess food is gathered by a network of good people at local food banks, giving hope to millions of children who struggle with hunger. They've earned their wings, and you can too. Together, we can solve child hunger. Support Feeding America and your local food bank at feedingamerica.org.
Here's your check. Oh, you got it. You know, since I got rid of my car, I really enjoy walking.
Okay. Got it.
Getting pulled over for buzz driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates.
Oh, you're home early. You live with your mom?
That'll set your game back a few years. Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
Thanks for staying with us. It's MCTV Extra Point. Now we're going to get into the NHL wildcard discussion. In the East, we have Detroit and Columbus rounding out the last two, with Washington with 85 points. What teams make it? Who have the best chance to continue in this Lord Stanley's Cup?
Yep, it's Detroit and Columbus. Washington's got no shot just because of the goalie situation. The goaltending situation is just not what you want. It's not ideal. Columbus with the sturdy starter and your man, Sergei, and Detroit, they're just playing some good hockey right now. You get Datsyuk back; he's been playing well.
He is coming back, and Bobrovsky is.
I don't see how Detroit can be considered a very serious contender for the Stanley Cup.
Well, they're getting older in the years. That's about it. Cam, which team do you think is going to be the best chance? Detroit or Columbus?
Washington's simply just too far out, honestly, in my opinion. They're 5 points behind to get to the 8th seed, but in my opinion, that's just simply too far behind.
Yeah.
Completely agree. Now over to the West. The Minnesota Wild clinched last night with 2-goal performance by Jason Pominville. And now the last spot is between the Dallas Stars with 89 points from the Central and 87 points with Phoenix from the Pacific. Who takes it, Dallas or Phoenix? They both have the same amount of games left. Who takes it?
as most things in hockey end up when you take away the luck aspect, you go to the goaltending. Who's got the better goaltender? Phoenix. Mike Smith.
You don't like Lettinen?
Oh, I like Lennon. He's not better than Mike Smith. I think it's going to come down to the goaltend situation. I think Dallas got probably more depth when it comes to their lines offensively, but I think
Jamie Benn is he's
some
30,
good players,
30,
but Phoenix
30
has some
something
players
goals.
too, though, and I think that Mike Smith is the reason why they take the last seed.
I take Jamie Benn over Radim Verbata any day. That's just me.
Well,
Going over Dallas and Phoenix.
Tough to call. They have the same amount of games left.
yeah, that's a big thing.
Yeah, but I'm gonna go with Dallas. They'll keep that lead, honestly.
I think so too. I agree. Lettinen, the defense, Jamie Benn, Russell, very great players. Very hard to beat. Now, two teams clinched last night. The Philadelphia Flyers, 5-2 win over the Florida Panthers with 2 goals from their captain Claude Giroux. And as I said, Minnesota Wild clinched 4-3 win over Boston, as Pominville scores 2. Out of those 2 teams, who's got the best to beat their first round? Minnesota will be taking on the LA Kings or help me out with this one, Nick. The LA Kings or the second seed, who will be
the St. Louis Blues.
St. Louis Blues.
Or Anaheim Ducks. We're not fully sure, but
I don't think Minnesota actually probably could with Brzgalov finally turning around and playing for a team with a lot of depth behind them in defense. They're really going to turn around. But I think Philly has the best shot against the Rangers. That's because I'm a homer. But what do you think, Nick? Who's got the best shot of winning that first round?
I think you've gone a little bit out of your mind. I think that if the Rangers continue on their path and get home ice, there is no chance the Flyers can beat them in MSG, and that's what it's going to come down to when it comes to home ice.
Really.
Objectively, you have to agree.
It really is the sport with the biggest, like football, any given day, any given Sunday, somebody could win. But with hockey, that stadium, have you ever been to a professional hockey game? The stadium takes over, the fans take over, and you really feed off of your fans.
If it gets to Game 7 on MSG, Flyers got no shot. And I think that that's the only reason why. But if the Flyers can jump the Rangers, which isn't that unfeasible, then I think they've got a much better chance than the Minnesota Wild do. And I think that it's really just going to come down to home ice for most teams in the NHL this year, like it does a lot of the time.
What team? Wild or Philadelphia Flyers?
Well, Philadelphia Flyers. Honestly, if I had to pick a team to watch and go far in the playoffs, I would pick the Flyers. But honestly, they're the lower seed right now, and the Rangers, they played consistent hockey all season long. But
it's interesting to watch the Flyers goaltending with Emery and Steve Mason.
Who you start Game 1?
Mason.
You start Mason Game 1?
Emery. I bring Emery to MSG because he's very weird. He's a very different player.
Really? So wait, no, so Mason. So you know.
I guess I know what I say. Yeah, Mason. Well, I'm saying we get home if we went out. But the Rangers are playing good. But yeah, you're right. I say Emery. You start off MSG first. You give him a taste of that because Mason is a great player.
Do you think he'll win Game 1?
I think the Flyers they'll win they might win one game in MSG.
I think it's going to 7 either way, quite frankly.
It's going to be a tough series. Yeah, regardless. Now over to a brighter note, Chris Letang, defenseman, suffered a stroke for the Pittsburgh Penguins, suffered a stroke 10 weeks ago. He's finally going to make his appearance tonight against the Detroit Red Wings. How do you guys think? Are you guys happy? Do you think you're scared for him? Should he not play hockey?
Well, you're scared for anybody who's had a stroke, but I don't think it's...
He's lost no motor skills, no brain power.
Well, obviously, good for him. You know, I'm not exactly what you would call a Penguins fan, but, you know, you can't root against a guy coming back from a serious thing like that. Hopefully he's healthy. I hope they lose some games, but hopefully he's healthy and he comes back full, which is good. But, you know, Pittsburgh needs some defensive help. You know, Brooks Orpik can't do everything for him.
I'm a Flyers fan. I hate Brooks Orpik, but damn, would I love to have Brooks Orpik on my team.
Who wouldn't?
I want some Brooks in my life, guys. I really would. Some troubling news over in St. Louis. David Backes, day-to-day with a lower body injury on the inside of his skate, hit with a puck. He'll be day-to-day, definitely back for the playoffs, so it's reassuring for the St. Louis Blues, who really need his help as the captain. Now we're going to move over to the NBA 8th seed, and in the East, Atlanta is secure with the 8th spot, but the Knicks are right behind with a 1.5 game back rating. There's 5 games left for Atlanta, 4 games for New York. Cam, who do you think takes it? Who takes that 8th seed? Who runs the playoffs?
I want to see the Knicks get to that spot, but they're not consistent enough. The Hawks are going to keep the spot, simply put.
I couldn't say it better myself. As a Knicks fan, I hope they do it, but they can't. And especially Carmelo with this injury right now, I don't see how it's possible.
Carmelo's day-to-day. Also, Atlanta playing really good defense. Atlanta has Lou Williams day-to-day, their guard, with a hammy injury. So hopefully he doesn't lose too much of his step, so they can help you need him in the playoffs. They're gonna need a lot of help if they're gonna be taking on Miami or Indiana.
Yeah, they will.
Over in the West, we have the Phoenix Suns, who are taking the 8th seed, and the Memphis Grizzlies 1 game behind them. With both 5 games left, who takes the West? Nick?
Might be the hardest question of the whole show because I really just they're so even, they're so evenly matched up. I think Phoenix really just on a whim, to be honest with you. I just feel like they're going to play more consistent basketball when it comes down to it. I think they're the team that has the more veteran leadership. They can get things done in the 4th. I think that's why they take it.
Cameron?
It's really tough to call. Phoenix, they're playing really great basketball right now. The Memphis Grizzlies with Michael Conley and Mark Gasol and Zach Randolph, that front court, they really have.
Do.
And not to mention Tayshaun Prince, he's out with an injury right now. But
Day-to-day with an ankle, rolled it in the last game.
But Phoenix, with Dragic and Gerald Green, that X factor, I think they'll keep that that little slim 1-game lead they have.
You think any of these teams have a shot even if they get in this 8th seed? I know everybody has a shot, but when it comes down to it, do they really have a realistic chance?
Phoenix, if they get into that 8th seed, more than likely they're going to be playing the Spurs. They'll take the Spurs to 6 or 7 probably.
That's probably the best matchup for the Spurs in the West.
Yeah.
Maybe the OKC, but they don't really. When you play as such a fundamentally sound team like the Spurs, it's really hard unless you're a fundamentally sound team like Phoenix.
Yeah.
Then you really can't do anything. Atlanta, next game they might be playing. The next game they have tonight or tomorrow, we're playing the Miami Heat, and that might be who they're facing. So we'll see. We'll definitely tune into that game.
Yeah.
Pay attention to how the game is played because it's going to probably be what's going to happen. In the playoffs.
Heat wants to beat them and try and knock them out and get the Knicks. They'd much rather
Oh,
play the Knicks
anybody
than
would
Atlanta.
rather play the Knicks, guys. Well, that's all we have tonight on our show, MCT Extra Point. You can see us on Facebook, mctvextrapoint.com/Facebook. And have a great night. We'll see you next week. Good night, everybody.